started the meeting earlier and then went into an executive session to discuss legal actions. And now we're reconvening city council meeting, starting with item number 6 on the agenda, visitors to be heard. Lisa, request to waive roadside for house demolition. Hi.
My husband Shannon and I, we live in North 7th, here in Beresford. It's on the corner of 7th and Cedar, or Highway 46. And we're looking into the opportunity to purchase the property behind us, so it's to the west. And, yeah. And it's 505 West Cedar. It's been abandoned a lot. It's kind of had its tougher days, and so we're working with the owner to buy it, but we don't want the house. We just like to create a backyard. And so we are waiting for a couple bids on demolition and excavation and fill. But we're requesting maybe a little help on maybe some help on the fees or of dumping, because I know we talked to one and he said it could be 2 to 3 side dumps. That's about $135 a load, a dump. And so I don't know, it could be, anywhere from $135 to maybe $405 maybe, depending on how many loads. And just trying to pinch our pennies. So just asking for help to get rid of the eyesore. I know there's birds that, at least for 10 years, have flown in and out of the windows. And we've actually got into it on Saturday. The owner said, yeah, go ahead and go into it, and explained that. He said there was the wire's been shut off, there was no electrical, no plumbing, and it's not habitable. It's, you can see by the pictures that there's just a lot of construction material inside, but there's not a lot in it. There's not cabinets. He did say that there was a new furnace and a new water heater down in the basement. They've never been, so they'd have to be taken out, but we didn't go to the basement because the steps had debris all over them, and we weren't gonna, we didn't want to risk it, so.
Lisa, are you taking the garage down too then? Would you take the garage down too?
Probably. I guess we'd have to see what kind of condition it's in, like the wood underneath and everything. I know the shingles are old, so we're not sure if that would stay or if it would go. We could turn it into a little shed garage thing for storage. We definitely make it look better and replace anything rotting. We're just not sure yet. So. And here's our neighbor Betty. She lives on the other side, so we live between. That house is between our places, and we call it the bird house because birds fly in and out. And so, would you like to speak, Betty?
Yes. Well, every morning when I look out my kitchen window, I see this house. The windows are boarded, the grass is, and there's an old lawnmower that's been there for a year now, sitting behind the garage. And the birds are flying in and out of the windows. And the basement window, that one's open so you can see down in there. That I see every morning, and every time I look out my kitchen window, I see this terrible house. And it'd be a pleasure to see it gone.
Was the owner's original intent to redo the house, obviously? Looks like there's some new construction.
I think his intention was to do it, because he had sheetrock in there and some tools in the house.
Right.
You can kind of see on some of the walls that he did put sheetrock up on it.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden all the windows he started pulling all the windows out.
Because he was going to
Boarding them
close
up,
up, he was going to change rooms around, and then he tore out the ceiling and went all the way up to the rafters, because he wanted to make it a big loft, just a big open area.
Yep.
And so he took out that whole, all of that up there, and, but then he was in a motorcycle accident, and so he's paralyzed. And so he's not gonna be able to do anything with it. I know Jerry, when you talked to him, he said he had 1 or 2 investors that he might have improved and try to sell it.
Yeah, when I talked to him before you had called Lisa, he had a building committee took out last year, and obviously the planning and zoning was on their radar to do something with it. And then, came in about the time when the building permit was gonna expire and wanted to renew it, or his father did, and, so it's sitting there, we have not renewed it yet at this point in time. So it'd be up for discussion at the next meeting, but, so his intent was to finish it off, but I think then Lisa got a hold of him, or he got a hold of you, and he probably had second thoughts about that, so.
Yeah.
Definitely something that we've had on the radar to either take down ourselves, and then we get stuck with the cleanup and everything else, and then trying to sell a lot, or else, if Lisa can do it, and you guys can do it, obviously, it'd be a benefit, I think, to the city to get rid of it that way, so.
I got a question. What if, we use this as experience for the fire department to put out fires and just burn it?
Jerry and I talked about that, and as Jerry said, that he's on the fire department, and it's too close to the other houses, and Highway 46 would have to be closed, and the state won't allow that.
It'd be a tough one, they don't mind doing it out in the country, where there's nothing else around where they can set barricades up all over, or I shouldn't say barricades, but put all their trucks in different positions in case of what happened to.
Just a thought.
Yeah, no, we thought so
So
too,
we used to do
but,
them all the time in town.
There may be demolition opportunities. Some of the training that has to occur with the firefighters where they learn how to breach different walls.
mhm.
That could be an opportunity. I do know there's a class that's starting in the next month or so.
Okay,
I think of options that potentially help with the demolition. As far as waiving the rubble site fees, I think the fear would be that if we did that, we would establish a precedent.
I
know there's
understand.
there's
Yeah.
quite a few folks in town that, I know there's been times when I look at that window on each end of the year where we open it up for free twice a year,
Once a year normally.
once a year. But I know it's a benefit because as you go through the ever accumulating, volume of things, it's nice. And of course, there are some operating costs for the dump, for the rubble site. I believe we keep them as low as possible, but I do know that it's a fairly popular site. As far as, again, talking with the fire department to see if maybe there would be ways to help with some demolition, not burning it, but, because it is a little too close from standoff distance perspective, but, or engaging someone in the town that would be willing to offer up a few volunteers that could help, that would offload the work to take it down. I'm trying to think of other ways we could help without necessarily opening up the rubble site for free. Because I agree that it is, so the face of our community is Highway 46, and yes, there's a little bit less traffic with 46 being close to the east, but
Right.
we know that it'll be open, well, according to the gentlemen that are feeding us updates on the 46, it's still gonna have to go all the way down past the corner that turns to the south where you go to Hayward, and so, I know there's a few years worth of work to do there.
Well, we'd also have to get rid of the basement,
Mm-hmm.
so that would have to be dug, and then Phil brought in, so.
So your demolition guys you've been talking to, that's more than likely what they're gonna come in with, an excavator, just knock it in, load it up, haul it off? Or are they gonna
That's,
piece it out?
well, and the thing is having that large equipment for as little as possible on 46, doing it quickly by tearing it down as opposed to all the, I don't know, I there's a lot of ifs and buts. It'd be great to have help, but how long will that take? And it will take too long, there'll be too many vehicles, and we don't wanna cause, slow down 46. I don't know.
What caught my attention, you said there's a new furnace in the basement, right?
Mhm.
There's value in that.
I know, a new furnace and water heater, and I know there's some, like if you see there was some power tools in there, there's a
Yeah.
saw, and there's I don't know if his plan is to get those things out beforehand.
Okay,
If we're working with our bank, and we'll probably know in the next few days for sure.
okay.
I'm trying to methodically, just, what is this gonna cost us to, be
Right.
logical of what are getting rid of it and.
Well, I don't know if you know any furnace guys, but.
Well, we do, yes, yeah,
They could give you an idea of what that's worth.
right, we were gonna talk to your brother.
Yeah.
And a water heater, brand new furnace and water heater.
Right.
We were gonna talk to him, until we know more.
We haven't seen it yet, so.
Right.
Yeah, we also haven't, yeah. we haven't
What's it
seen
look like? That's what I'm saying. He could give you an idea of what the value is.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
I know he says they're new, but like the stairs, there's a lot of debris, so I don't
Absolutely.
know how things look.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jerry, you were talking to Jeff, any thoughts on,
Oh, we were just talking about the volunteer, we were talking about that, I thought, it's somebody with a track will be in and out of probably in 2 hours or less. It wouldn't take long to knock that thing down, they'd have it knocked down in 15 minutes, and then it's just hauling it out. Which is small.
yeah,
Yeah, if anyone, like, I don't know who'd want it. Maybe there's someone who'd wanna come and take it, they could have it,
Lift it up, pull it out, you know.
And then all we'd have to do is
basement.
give it to the basement and fill. I don't know.
cause I don't know that Beresford Swap is probably the right vehicle for that, but, we go from old clothes to houses, but,
Well, if you show the pictures of the marijuana,
Yeah, the marijuana that we have to call and text and say, hey, can you get rid of your weed?
the pet woodchuck and the marijuana.
Right.
Like, we sold that house, that garage on the Soxted property for $4,100, and that's in probably as bad a shape, if not worse than that.
Mhm.
You never know.
Yeah.
But again, that might take 6 to 8 months to get someone in there to move it too.
So the question there then, so the SOG said work, both to looking at that property and kind of looking at the future state. Was that an action through the lens of Bedco, or was planning and zoning?
Bedco.
Bedco. And Bedco's gonna meet in the next few weeks. There may be an opportunity to ask similar questions, from an economic development perspective, what might be feasible, what might not.
Sure.
I think you're looking at your timeline and you wanna have some things in mind, but it sounds like you do have a few questions that are gonna be answered in the next few weeks.
Mhm.
Cause we're thinking, mid-November for,
If you get everything to tear down this year, do you think?
If we can get someone to do it this year, yes. One guy, we've got 2 possibilities. There's a third one out there, but we haven't heard anything from him. But one guy says, I am really busy, but I could maybe, it's not real big, so I could maybe get it done quickly. The other one, it's possibly this year too. So I guess it depends on the weather. If it cooperates is the next thing.
it was supposed to rain tonight, but it decided not to, so weather's unpredictable.
Right.
Yeah, and as far as your request to waive the rubber site fee, I don't know that we can do that right now, but I do think there are options that we can exercise, to try to see what things we can bring to the table to help.
Okay.
Okay.
Because again, face of our community is kind of on that avenue, so we know, and you guys seem like you're pushing forward, and you want to be able to facilitate that, so.
Sure.
We'll connect you with Bedco to see maybe when they're going to meet,
Okay.
and if there are questions we can answer before that happens,
Okay.
but,
Sure.
yeah.
All right.
Thanks for coming, appreciate your, the graphics are
Yeah,
fantastic.
you can have them.
Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah.
Pictures of the woodchuck, I'll have to show the kids.
We had to Google, what is this animal?
Mr. Mayor,
Big,
For
sir,
Kind of advice to just keep things clean from this meeting, from the posting, would be to deny that for right now.
Sure. Okay.
And I would move that so we know where that status is for right now, and if something comes through the Development Corporation to follow up, so.
Okay.
I would move that we deny that waiver for tonight.
motion on the table,
Shot second.
motion and a second to deny the request to waive the rubble site fees, so any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? So we'll waive the request, but then we'll look for opportunities down the road.
Sounds good.
Well, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you for your time.
Yep, absolutely. Item number,
The really good job.
item number 7 7 on our agenda is park, schools, recreation, and education.
The Parks Committee met on Thursday evening, and we discussed a variety of topics. The majority of it centered around a timeline of what we're gonna do for dedicating the new baseball softball complex. We're gonna work with Elaine and come up with some sort of a date. I spoke with Matt Storrow, and he said, they don't plan to have any tournaments out there till the first part of May. So if we could do something prior to that, where they would actually be using those new fields for the first time, so we have all of April or something to plan, figure out a date that works. We talked about naming the new fields, what we're looking at right now, and this was Councilman Rohr's suggestion for the high school softball field in visiting with the Lawrence family, the Jack Lawrence family. We're gonna be rededicating that field back to Jack Lawrence. That was their wish, because that's the field he played on. He wore the number 2 jersey. And so we were going back and forth on what would be an appropriate name to recognize this is the high school softball field and Jack Lawrence. And Larry came up with the idea of Watchdog Stadium, Jack Lawrence Field. So it's not set in stone, but that's what we're considering. So we're looking for feedback on that. We're also looking for ideas to name the new complex, and I visited with Matt Storrow about that as well the other night. We're looking at giving naming rights to whoever would want to contribute a considerable amount of money. Maybe all up front, or commit to some sort of a contract over several years, and we would give them the right to put their name on the new complex. So those are the things we discussed. Anything I'm missing? Larry, Sarah?
I don't think so, other than when I was reading through, I don't know if it was the minutes or whatever, in our notes, it says something about it is the Grace V. Nelson Complex. I just happened to read that today.
The original 2 fields is the Grace V. Nelson
Okay.
Complex.
Okay. I
And
just
that
didn't
will
know
stay
if
Grace
it
V.
was all
Nelson.
encompassing, okay.
We're just gonna rename the new area.
Okay.
Yep.
I just wanted to verify, because I saw it in some of our
Right.
stuff, so I was like, oh.
Is there any questions from anybody else for the committee? If you have other ideas, in regards to the dedication ceremony, what you'd like to see part of that, ideas for naming the new fields as well. But Matt Storrow, he's the head softball coach. He's gonna be going out to businesses to start soliciting sponsorships. And I said we would make this part of the package that he's presenting to the businesses, and he was all in agreement to that. Just wanted to have something in writing to present to them about, here's your option if you want to put your name on the new complex. So. Yep, and yeah, that's all we got on that.
Yeah, I think that's a great plan. You know, there have been sponsorship programs in the past, but they were fairly convoluted, and I don't know that there was someone keeping up with them. So it sounds like Matt's pretty engaged.
Yes.
So I think, and I think one of the things we ran into last year is we know we've got some sponsorship signs for businesses that have either no longer in operation or whatnot. So I think Matt's that's one of the things on his to-do list, so.
Okay.
Yeah. And I
think they quit billing on the big field.
Yeah.
I haven't seen them for a couple of years that I recall.
Right. And I think at one point in time, there was some acknowledgement by some of the business owners in town that, when everyone, everyone in town is coming to the different businesses asking for money every week, they're gonna most likely have a marketing or sponsorship budget to stay within those guidelines. And I think if there was a way to coordinate that, so that they're not getting beat every week. But, there's larger businesses that may be opportune for naming perhaps the new fields or field complex, keep the Grace V. Nelson fields,
Yep.
the Watchdog Stadium, Jack Lawrence Field, and then perhaps the new fields.
Yeah, and speaking, and that too, that field will be rededicated to Jack Lawrence during the Jack Lawrence tournament. That's already been discussed with the Lawrence family, so that's the plan there. And I don't have the dates of that, but we'll coordinate with them at that time.
Third weekend in June usually.
Okay,
Father's Day weekend, so.
okay.
Any other discussion? Thanks, Mike. All right, moving on to item number 8 in the agenda, Department Head City Administrator Reports, Lane Johnson, Finance.
So everyone should have a copy of the September financial report. Just a few things that happened in September. We paid off the Lewis and Clark final true-up, which was $137,404. So we don't have that lingering over our head anymore. That is now paid off. The city car, the 2019 Chevy Equinox, received hail damage, and so we went and had that repaired. It was $1,000 deductible, and so that came in at $6,072. Site Works for the wastewater treatment facility, we paid them pay request number 6. That was $646,773. And Twite Construction, we paid for the golf park shop, which was $33,357. We also received a very nice donation from the GFWC, which I do not know what that stands for, Progress Study Club. I believe it's, okay. Bonus points to Attorney Freeberg. They donated $250 towards the Bulow Park rock wall restoration. So that just helped ease up a little bit of that expense this year. So thank you to that GFWC Progress Study Club.
Motion to approve the September 2024 minutes. Or financial report. Minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
Motion and a second on the table to approve the financial report. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Financial report has been approved. Mr. Zimet's update on ball field.
Yeah, Pat Gary's down here today too. He's got, gonna take a look at the bids we had on the 7th Street utility project, but, while we're here, we've just kind of been visiting back and forth, trying to get this thing wrapped up. We've had the final pay request submitted by the, general contractor. We haven't brought that to the council yet, because we're trying to work through a few of the little things that are still out there that we're working on, so. But I think some of the things that we talked about with shade structures, they were not put on originally the right way. We've taken them down, removed them. I think our guys will be putting them up next spring again, so we know how to do it correctly. We did have one of them that we're having troubles with, so we'll just continue working on that and removing that and putting it up again next year.
Will they be able to be installed correctly next year, since they were put up wrong this year?
Yeah, I think it was just the way that they were attached on the corner where it has some tension
Mhm.
to allow it to be adjusted. Parkway fixed that or put the proper turnbuckle on there.
Okay.
And so I think the issue they were having is one of the final ones that was stripped out on the mechanism, so I'm guessing that maybe just needs to be replaced.
Okay.
But they did address the issue to make them adjustable and more
Good.
removable.
Okay.
I think the other biggest issue we have is probably the batting cage turf. I think if you guys were out there, you've seen that at times it was up there about 2 feet, so we know that's not attached to the concrete in certain places. And our fear is that there's gonna be water that might have got underneath there, so it'll never, ever seal correctly, and I don't know that a lot of them don't even glue it down in the middle, they just do it at the edges, is what I've seen, and I think that's in this case what they did, but, we've got some problems there. Pat, I don't know how they address that one, cause I've been back and forth many times.
Right,
about how we
I've
handle it.
talked to Tony about that one a few times, and I think, you know, he's certainly willing to do something. I think his hesitation is, like Jerry said, they did glue the perimeter of both of those panels of turf. And what he's afraid of is if they go in and try to cut that glue loose, if they tear the turf or rip the turf, it's about a $9,000 product to replace, and he's just kind of gun shy to try that. But I mean, it's pretty obvious something needs to be done, and so, you know, aside from just trying that and hoping for the best, the other option he was looking into was, is there a way that they could cut in some of those areas, essentially create a seam that could be glued down. And I stopped out there tonight prior to the meeting, and there's certainly at least one or two spots that are, I would call pretty bad. A couple of the other ones may be starting to look a little better, but again, that wrinkle, I don't know that there's necessarily dirt underneath it, because you can step on it and it goes down, but there's just, that turf is fairly heavy and fairly stiff, that it's just not going to lay flat without doing something. So I guess the best way forward would be to get maybe some opinions from this group as to, what you would like to see. And I don't know if we can offer Tony any assurance of, if the turf was to become damaged, is it all on him? The flooding that happened to cause this issue in the first place was out of everybody's control, but realistically, it was during construction and it was during the time that they were responsible, so I don't know that I would recommend one way or the other that the city have any responsibility in that, but I guess if there's any other thoughts or ideas that anybody has, or.
Oh, you know me, I always got a thought, don't they have to bond the project or the job? Doesn't the bond company say, hey, an act of God or whatever? Can't we have them pursue that to see what the result is?
I guess my opinion on that is it's just like insurance, right? Unless it's something catastrophic, you're probably not going after that, because it's going to reflect negatively on you, on the contractor, that they put a claim into their bond. And so, while $9,000 is not an insignificant amount, it's probably insignificant in the grand scheme of bonding. So I don't know if that's a viable option, but I think that's something that could be asked.
What I'm talking about is, okay, you get a hold of the bond company, say, listen, it's 9,000, if the city chips in 2 or 3, can you chip in some, try to negotiate something better than nothing? That's
Right.
one option.
Right.
I'm not saying that's the final one, but try to have 2 or 3 different options, that would be one option. Then the other one is, give me okay to rip it out, and if it doesn't work, then we'll have to figure something else out. But if you work with the bond company, and even if you get even a couple thousand, it's better than nothing.
Right,
Money's
because on
money.
on the optimistic side, they could, take some kind of scraper and cut this loose and it doesn't rip, and they can, stretch it back out and glue it back down, and everybody's happy. That's the best case scenario.
My only concern is if it's gonna drag on and it makes it past May or June, I don't wanna have a meeting next year and say, well, we're still working on this bump.
Right.
I'd rather have something done like ASAP, like tomorrow, the next day, get back to the council, hey, we're working on this, even though you're Beresford, we're here.
Is the weather an issue now at this point?
I'm guessing the temperatures would have to be high enough for the glue to be used, but there's still some nice days out there for sure.
Right.
You got at least another week.
Yeah, I'd say you gotta do something, figure it out, and then if there's a cost, we figure it out. We negotiate maybe. Cause wasn't there concern they put it in November last year, and that was maybe an issue with the glue too, or?
I guess I don't remember offhand when it was put in, but yeah, if it was put in late, that's a
Yeah.
good point.
Well, can we just hold back $10,000 from their deal? If it's 9,000 is what they think, just hold that back and say, hey, until you guys rectify that, we want it done ASAP, we're not gonna pay you.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
We just hold that back, we don't have to go to the bonding people to do that, we just don't pay them. Until they come back and say, you have to pay us, and then we go back and forth and fight it out, that's what it amounts to, so.
Talking with some folks earlier tonight who were asking for a small break on the rubble site to take an eyesore off Highway 46, and we, passed on it. It's kind of hard not to say, hey, you were gonna put the carpet down and deliver it new, we're waiting.
Right.
Wasn't our fault.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think that's really the issue. I think the issue is looking at a scenario that might not even happen. And I think I can go back to Tony and just say, hey, this was the direction from the city council. You gotta try loosening the glue. You gotta try,
Yeah.
restretching that mat. if the worst case scenario happens, then maybe he has to come and sit down here and have a visit with you guys. That makes sense.
Maybe if someone else doesn't wanna tackle it, we just take that off the bill.
Right.
Maybe there's someone that does that on a more regular basis than Tony does. I don't think he does a lot of them, but maybe there's someone that installs way more of them things than he does, so.
Right.
I got another couple of questions. Okay, you're the guy who's the engineer. When they put this turf or whatever, who signed off on that?
I mean, there's not necessarily a sign-off process. Again, I guess the issue was the flooding, right?
Right,
if
I
the-
know, but I mean, what day, what time was it done? We got the paperwork to say he put it in November, what the weather was this, or it was 2 feet of rain, or the ground was wet?
I mean, I'd have to look back at field reports. I don't know if we have.
Yeah, if you
something
can get us
going
the
on
dates
every day.
when it was installed, if the ground was wet, or if it rained that week. I mean, we got all these kids now, they're gonna play, and if it's not open in May, I'm sure you're gonna hear a lot of screaming from everybody. The amount of money we're spending is astronomical. I can't believe with a bond company, they wouldn't negotiate. I don't know, I'm not from here, but I mean, people I dealt with bond companies, you call them, they're willing to work somewhat. So my question to you, is there any way you could talk to the contractor and maybe just talk to the bond company to say, what if? What Banner could do?
Yeah, I'll talk to Tony.
Well, I mean, don't force them, or not, just say, you know, we gotta get this going. We got another 2 or 3 weeks of good weather, is there any way we could do something?
Right.
Then I'd look up to you more.
I mean, it's in Tony's interest to get this done too. I mean, he
Right.
wants to get paid, he wants the job.
Yeah, but if he thinks we're gonna look the other way, it doesn't work.
No,
that
I
way.
don't think that's the case at all. I think it's a matter of, again, maybe Jerry mentioned it. I think it's maybe something he's not completely familiar with, a little bit hesitant to do something. I don't think his expectation is that the city's gonna say, yeah, we've got this wrinkled mat and we're just gonna be fine with it. I mean,
Right,
that's
right,
not-
right.
That's not his expectation.
Yeah, I think we go to the recommendation with hold right now, and then you're looking at options, and, yeah, we go from there.
Are there any other major punch list items that still need to be addressed?
So there was some damage that was done to, parking lot lights, that Mike's crew fixed. And so Mike submitted a $1,475 invoice. I talked to Tony about that, that'll be deducted from the final payment. There's still some ongoing issues with some leaking on the irrigation lines that's inside the shed. He offered $1,000 credit, for the guys to work on that, next spring. I talked to Kelly about that, I believe he's okay with that option.
Well, I think there was some concerns how it was installed,
Right.
period. They didn't put the proper stands in to hold all that piping up and.
Yeah, some stands have been added, but again, when there's some boards that are still in there, I mean, I think there's still some proper pipe supports that need to be put in and,
Yep.
and things like that. And so the issue, or maybe not the issue, I guess it's an issue that, from Tony's perspective, you know, the way that plumbing was put together, it needs to be taken apart in order to winterize it. So, you know, regardless of how perfect he would have had it, it needed to get taken apart. So now there's an opportunity for Kelly to, you know, put it to his expectation next spring with a credit to have some money to do some of that work.
And he figures 1,000 is enough to cover that? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if there was anything else that,
I think those are the three biggest things. You know, there's gonna be constantly, we'll have to reseed and overseed in different
Right.
places as, every year we're gonna have to do that, but, Kelly said their guys will take care of that, so.
Okay. And the drainage is no longer an issue?
I don't think we got too much, other than, you know, by the playground equipment, but that's something Jeff needs to do a lot to work on later. But, that's what I have field number 2.
Right.
I don't think we've got any other drainage issues at this point.
no, I mean, once we could get that, silt fence down and the barriers out of the drains, I think that, you know, kind of solved that
I think
issue.
we looked at all, we
Outside.
took a look at a lot of those pipes, you know, those drain pipes that come out of like field number 5,
Mhm.
which is over by the concession stand, and there wasn't that much dirt in the bottom of there at all when we pulled those things. I mean, it was
Okay.
just a little bit, but,
So no concern of
nothing-
debris or
nothing
anything in
abnormal.
there?
Right.
Okay,
they should be flowing.
good. All right.
Yeah, overall, it looks really nice. It's obviously, you know, taken a long time to get to this point. And,
Yeah.
you know, Mike has mentioned they're continuing working on the scoreboard, so that'll be nice to have those up and kind of finish everything off with that.
Just waiting to make sure the concrete was good and firmed up before we put something up there, especially with the winds we've been having lately. Don't wanna have one of them up there and then
Absolutely.
something happen with the supports, so. I think we're gonna try some this year, if we can get a non-windy day, see if we can get one or two or three of them put up, so.
And all the cracked concrete was all fixed too?
Yeah.
Yep,
I think we'll have it.
that was done. And there was some extra concrete work that was done too on one of the existing fields, on field 2, I think. right?
Yes.
Yeah.
One thing we will have to do too, I know Jeff and I have been talking about asphalt, our equipment will probably not be able to handle that and get it done in a timely manner, so we'll probably end up bidding that out, so it might cost, not probably cost twice as much, but probably another 50% more to have someone come and do it, so.
Okay.
I'll have to have Pat help us with just a real basic, plans and specs on that, should be pretty basic, I would think, and then we'll go to bids on that, and hopefully we can get that done either, I don't know if we can still get it done this year or not, probably not.
I would think I'd be pushing it.
Yeah, so we'd like to have it done next year as soon as possible, but we'll see how that goes, so.
Okay.
Usually when do they start asphalt plants, 1st of May?
You know, it depends on the weather, it can be first end of April, or 15.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll get something in as soon as that weather cooperates, we can get that done next spring.
Sounds good.
That's probably the last big thing we have left.
Thanks, Pat. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you for your time and energy. Do good work. Just you persist and get back to us.
Yep, we'll get it figured out.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Pat, appreciate it. All right, we'll go ahead and, if any further questions, we'll go ahead and move on to item number 9 on the agenda, which is old business. Item number 1, social media policy. Last time we met, we reviewed the draft social media policy, which provides some basic right and left boundaries.
I just made one minor tweak to that to mirror the same language under the union contract for disciplinary action, what activities could constitute that, so. Under the section of personal accounts, the language in the policy mirrors what it says in the, under disciplinary actions, it's action which is detrimental to or discredits the city, may result in, disciplinary actions. So it's consistent between the policy and what the negotiated agreement with the employees is, so. Other than that, I didn't see anything else that was problematic, so.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the policy as written. Yes, sir?
Oh.
Motion?
Should we make a motion then discussion?
Sure.
Okay, shall I make a motion to approve social media?
Motion on the table.
Second.
Motion and a second on the table to approve the social media policy. Any further discussion?
I just got one or two questions. Some of the city employees talked to me briefly about social media use. If they had a city phone, like if they had their email or an app on there, you know, cause, some employees got 2 phones, some's got 1. And if they had a phone on, say, for their wife or their kids saying, hey, I'm gonna be late getting home tonight, what's the boundaries on social media where you could use the city phone or whatever, you know, for 1 or 2 seconds to respond to somebody calling? You know, a
That's
family
not
member.
social media though, that would just be private communication.
Yeah, but I mean, if it related to a baseball game or something that was going on, you know, somewhere, is there a time limit that they could respond, or could they have software?
I mean, I think this
That
is
was a
just
question
dealing
asked
with,
me, you know.
yeah, this is only dealing with, you're talking Facebook, Instagram.
Right,
TikTok.
but if they got a game or something going on, a social event, there might be 10 people on there. That's what I was asking.
Well,
Where's the
that'd be
boundary?
still just their private texting.
Okay,
So I don't think
okay.
this would impact that.
Yeah, I
If
don't want
somebody's
that.
got specific questions, just have them bring it up, and then that way we'll be able to clearly differentiate what would be
Yeah.
personal use.
Yeah, okay, no,
Because if it's social media use to inform the public, I know that Elaine and I talked when there was a active chase in town, we wanted to be able to get the word out quickly, and that was after hours, social
Right,
media posts,
right.
keeping the public informed.
Yeah, Yeah, but I just wanna make sure it's clear that we're not gonna nitpick every single person, that within reason, if there's a situation, you put something in their file, it's warranted,
No.
not,
That's not the intent.
I think that would be different.
right, okay, all right, thank you, sorry to bother you.
No. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approval, say aye. Anyone opposed? All right, social media policy's been approved. Next item for old business, seasonal and part-time employee hiring policy.
Last meeting, you talked about situations arise occasionally where, there's 2 to 3 weeks between council meetings, and one of the departments might have a exigent circumstance where they have a shortage of help and they need to bring someone on a temporary part-time basis. This would allow the city administrator to employ them, with the department head's approval, and then when waiting till the next council meeting could be disruptive to the operations of that department. So, the example we gave was with the clubhouse. Ben was short some staff, he had events there, he had a previously employed employee that he wanted to bring back for helping for a couple of events, and there wasn't a council meeting in the intervention, so this would give authority for the city administrator then to do that just until the next council meeting, so you've got some coverage there.
Need a motion? Sean makes a motion for seasonal and part-time employee hiring policy as stated by Tom Freeberg. Want me to read it?
Second.
Motion and a second on the table to approve the seasonal and part-time employee hiring policy. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? All right, we'll show that policy as. Okay, now we're gonna move into 3 successive actions where we're gonna be conducting the second reading and adoption of ordinances 2024-02-0304. I'm going to start with ordinance 2024-02 FY supplemental appropriation for new ladder truck for the fire department. Every last word, Mr. Weaver? Yeah.
I think we got it all covered. so.
Yeah, I mean, the first reading was on October 7th, and so this would be considered the
These would all
second
just be final
reading and
approvals.
final approval. Mhm.
All right, any questions from council?
I move final approval on the ordinance 2024-02 supplemental for the new ladder truck.
Second.
Motion and second on the table to approve supplemental appropriation 2024-02 for the new ladder truck. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? I'll reflect that as approved. Ordinance 2024-03 FY supplemental appropriation for equipment for park and golf department.
And this is just taking the funds from the sale of the Toro Multi-Pro 1200 turf sprayer and putting it back into the departments.
Make a motion to adopt ordinance 2024-03.
Second.
Motion and second on the table to approve ordinance 2024-03 supplemental appropriations for the golf course. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? 2024-03 is approved. Last, second reading and final approval for 2024-04 supplemental appropriation ordinance for Chevrolet Equinox, and this is the,
hail damage and
The hail
the
damage.
insurance payment.
$5,072.52.
There is just a date on there, and
What's that?
it says adopted October. On all those, I think they say dated October 7th, they'd actually be dated today.
Today? Okay.
Yeah, for the approval.
Move final approval of ordinance 2024-04 supplemental for insurance reimbursement.
Second.
Motion and a second on the table to approve ordinance 2024-04 supplemental appropriation for the Chevy Equinox. All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. Those 3 ordinances will show approved, and then we'll figure the date out for the actual.
You'll have a strong couple before you leave.
Got it. Perfect. All right, that completes old business. We're gonna move into new business. We're gonna review the bids for 7th Street Utility Extension Project.
So last Tuesday, we had the bid opening for the Seventh Street Extension Project, which is the second of the three ARPA-funded projects that we've been working on with you. Ended up getting 6 bids that ranged from $658,994 up to $875,000. The engineer's estimate was right at $800,000. The low bid was submitted by First Rate out of Sioux Falls. They've done projects in town in the past. Looking through their bid, everything looked to be in order. If the council chooses to move forward, the next step would be for you to make a motion to to award the bid to First Rate, contingent on DANR's concurrence. From there, we'll put together the documents that need to go to the state so that they can provide that. The deadline that's kind of looming in front of us is we need to have this project under contract by December 31st, so we're sitting in very good shape for that, to make that happen. I wouldn't expect any construction to start yet this year, but you never know, I guess, if the weather really stays nice, but I would presume that this will be spring construction for First Rate next year.
Jerry, what's your recommendation?
Yeah, we've worked with First Rate quite a few times in town. I know Jeff has. We've done quite a few times. They've done a lot of work for us. They did the 2nd, 5th, 11th Street sewer and water main projects, and they're a good company. They've been around a long time, so absolutely. Yeah.
Shall makes a motion for First Rate for the bid results for Beresford 7th Street. I'm gonna put down today's date,
Subject to DANR approval.
subject to DNR, DA.
NR concurrence.
Subject to DANR concurrent for the amount, do we have to put the amount in there?
Was it $800,000?
$658,994.
$658,994. Well, it says range, so it's the cheapest one.
Yep, so that was the $658,994 was First Rate's bid.
Okay.
Motion by Counselor Schott, second by Counselor Wilkie. Any further discussion? Pat, both with engineering perspective, you guys have looked at this, there's no outliers.
No, it was, they had a really strong bid all the way through. I didn't see anything that
I was happy to see 6 contractors in the realm, within the realm.
Yep.
So a couple $100,000 difference between lowest bid and highest bid.
Yep.
And some usual suspects in there as far as those that are doing the work.
Right.
And local companies too, which is good. All right, so motion second on the table to approve the bid from First Rate Excavate, Inc., contingent upon approval by DANR at the cost of $658,994. Any further discussion? All those in approval say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. It's been approved. All right, thanks, sir. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right, next item, new business, municipal referendum petition received regarding resolution 2024-16, Buck, first edition plat.
So I received a petition on October 8th, and at the time, there were only 68 good signatures and 71 is the required number of signatures. And so I received another petition on October 17th of 9 good signatures, so there's a total of 77 good signatures for the petition, so it qualifies for being submitted. And I will let Attorney Freeberg take it from here.
So the question for the council, the referendum process requires the filing of a petition referring any ordinance or resolution to a potential vote. The legislature has designated certain types of decisions the council makes are subject to referendum, others are not. The distinction they draw is in SDCL 9-20-19. It distinguishes legislative acts of the city from administrative acts. It's my opinion that this is an administrative act. Your subdivision ordinance and planning ordinances set forth the requirements for plats. The plat met all of those requirements. It was really a matter of the council making sure the i's were dotted and the t's were crossed. It wasn't a discretionary act. You're not enacting a new ordinance which has a permanent effect upon, incorporating a new law or ordinance for the city. But this is really just an administrative decision of the city council, which is not subject to the referendum. So it would be my recommendation to reject the petitions based upon that, not upon the signatures. Those were updated to get the adequate number that is required. But this would be an administrative act of the city and not a legislative act. So that would be my recommendation.
So a clear distinction between legislative and administrative action. Yeah.
Right, so the statute, and I think probably one of those placed in front of you, does say that a legislative decision, one that enacts a permanent law or lays down a rule of conduct or course of policy for the guidance of citizens of their officers. This doesn't do that. This just identifies the various locations of streets, lots within the subdivision. The property is properly zoned for that type of use. I think that was, what, a year and a half ago, that was rezoned into housing, multifamily housing actually was the rezoning. That was all done and approved. This is just following through with, again, ensuring compliance with subdivision ordinance, which was complied with the hearings in front of the planning and zoning, and again before this board. So they define administrative process as one that merely puts into execution a plan already adopted by the governing body itself. And that's what you've done with your subdivision ordinance. And so my recommendation would be to reject the petitions as being an administrative decision of the council.
Thanks.
Before you take your vote, I just wanted to say, if you're truly acting in the best interest of the residents, not just the ones that are up there on the north side of town, it involves everybody in Beresford, that you shouldn't be afraid to put that on a ballot and letting them vote on it and have their say. I mean, it's not that difficult to just put that on that ballot and let them know, because I mean, they're not really, a lot of people, especially on the north end or south end of town, weren't even aware of the development. And you're only sending out notices to the people that are 300 feet, within the actual vicinity of the project. And so, when I went around and I was getting, and all I did was tell them, exactly, I read everything to them, and I said, this is just a signature saying that we want the residents to be able to have that vote on a ballot. And they were definitely in agreement of that. So I just wanted to say, if you're truly acting in the best interest of the residents, and even the ones up in that ward or anything, that you would at least give it thought.
I think two things to take into consideration is that each action that we've taken has been published in the paper. And so when we go through the successive series of both the planning and zoning meetings and then the successive city council meetings where we review the planning and zoning actions that were perhaps to the initial ordinance and or some of those legislative actions, these are administrative actions on the backside. I think the best thing to do for the community is to look out for the way that we can manage growth in this community rather than individual small issues where we have some disagreement on the way to execute a plan that's already been put in place.
I wouldn't say this is small, but
I think the thing that's in the best interest of the community though is, and as we balance balance this against some of the other communities that are neighbors of ours that have grown enormously overnight, we have the ability to put a development using government resources, some grant funding into motion in order to be able to provide housing, affordable housing for residents of our community, because there haven't been any new builds in our community for over 18 months. So I think the thing that we need to look out for is the young families that are in this town that don't have an opportunity to potentially look at buying a new home, but this will provide that.
If you take a look at Third Street, you drive up that way, in the last 3 weeks, 4 houses have probably gone up for sale. And they're concerned because of the taxes going up, and that you're going to actually, if your potential streets, as you said it before, that you're gonna be ruining people's property, you're gonna have them move buildings or whatever they have to do, tear them down, whatever, if you make those potential streets through. You know, I just don't understand. I know you say you post things, but not everybody looks at those and think that, you know, I don't know. They just aren't aware. They really truly aren't aware.
When you made them aware, were they opposed to building a new housing division in town?
I'm sorry?
When you made them aware, were they opposed to a new housing division in town?
All they said was that they thought it should be fair and let the people vote. Because I didn't try to sway, as I told them, I said, I'm not swaying you to vote anyway. I said, all I want is a signature saying that, you know, if you want to put it on a ballot, this is your choice. So.
I just wanna make a comment. I belong to the library board, I've been in town since '91, I came from Chicago, and I was involved a lot with the golf course, and I'm a senior member, I was on the board for 9 years, and I talked to probably at least 500 people or more in the last year and a half on this project. I have yet to hear one person say no. They all say they want babysitting, they want housing, and they said, what is the city willing to do to get the housing in here? We're doing the best we can with what we got. And like the mayor said, some of that grant money is almost impossible to get, and it's really relentless on the paperwork, the time, the energy. I mean, we're already quite a few meetings into this, and every time there was posted a sign, if you're in my ward, sold the project, I went down there and I personally saw the signs that were on the poles, they were there, and I asked everybody, what do they think? And they said, well, they were real happy that some type of housing was gonna be built, about 50 or so lots. Nothing's gonna be perfect.
You're talking about here?
Right,
in Beresford?
Beresford, right.
There
I'm talking
was
about
signs
Beresford.
on poles?
When they first made the first notice on the first meeting, they had signs over there by the baseball field about the Bach property. When they first began way
Okay.
back in the day,
How
When
many
the
people
first
go
meeting-
down in that area?
I go down there at least 3 times a day. I go all over the
You
city.
drive around, well, okay, but
I
there's
haven't worked in
signs
3
saying,
years.
you know, you can't go down there after 8 o'clock or 8:30 or whatever. People are going down there to use the gun club. The only people that go down that way are the ones that are using the baseball field, and that's only 2 months out of the year.
I went down there to make sure the signs were up, and I went around town.
Okay,
I
that's
mean, I
fine.
go to the
I'm just
senior
saying how
center.
many actually seen
I
it.
go to the senior center at least
That's
4
kind of an
times
odd
a
place
week.
to be putting them.
The people in the senior center, Joanne and all the other ones that run the food pantry, they're real happy to house them. And on the library board, there's a lot of families that are happy, there's gonna be more kids, more stuff for the movies. The school's happier than hell because every penny they can for the school is gonna make a difference. It ain't gonna get any better to raise money.
Yeah, I mean, I think to your point, the communication part is what you seem to have most issue with. And it's, in order to be able to make sure that most of the communication that we push out from the council is fair and equal, we publish it on the website, we publish it in the paper. And so, I don't know that we can tailor communication beyond that. I agree with you that I think we can push out some more so that people understand the benefits. But I
There hasn't been any marketing or anything. That's why people don't know any of this stuff.
because a lot of this is still in motion. So I think, to your point, we need to do a better job of communicating. I would agree with that. I think the thing that the attorneys brought forward is that based on South Dakota codified law, there are legislative
I know.
actions and administrative actions, and in that interpretation, this is an administrative action that we've taken, so it doesn't necessarily qualify for the referendum. So I think we need to take your guidance and we need to look at better ways to communicate, because I think people need to understand that. Point taken.
Thank you.
I just want to add too, there were at least 2 meetings and maybe 3 where we had discussions with the folks who are talking about Grant Street, where it does go through, I mean, Grant Street has been planned out since 1895. It just hasn't been any action over there. And there was a discussion of alternatives. Could we, move to one place or another? And it simply comes down, I think, to having the number of egress points in and out of there. Something needed to happen on that property, and that was kind of the result. It wasn't that was not discussed. It was just, this was the best alternative of the options to make sure there were enough points of access and egress from that development area. So I know that was discussed, at the council meeting at least twice, maybe 3 times.
And each time I came in, I was told, we'll take it under consideration, come back.
Yeah.
3 times, come back. And if this wouldn't have probably gone this far, but the very first time, a year and a half ago, probably a little bit more by now, I went into Jerry's office, my husband and I did, and when we first got the notice about this, and I said, what can we do about this? We don't want our property split. We've been taking care of that property for over 25 years, way over 25 years. And he said, well, that should be simple. He says, you can do a petition for vacate right away. Well, how do I do that? He goes, I'll have Tom draw up the papers. Tom drew up the
I didn't say it'd be
papers.
simple. I said, that's the process you have to take. I didn't say it'd be
Okay.
simple, because it's very hard to get anything like that done, so.
Okay.
But I think the right of way's been there since 1891, and I
Yeah.
know that both Art before you and now your family you've been there for a long time, so you feel like it's there, but at the same time, it was, fortunately, those that came before us knew that the city would grow in certain directions, and so we established that. So I mean, we verified that the right of way was there from 1891, so that's 133 years that it's been back when I think it was.
No matter what anybody's been taken care of or anything, they put those codified laws aside and they only go focus on the one thing. And you're splitting that property. I'm not looking at it just at that.
That's not
I'm
it.
looking at this for the plat, for the lots and everything. I'm not looking at Grant. I didn't bring that up. I'm not the one that brought that up.
Yeah.
So I'm not, but now that you started it, but,
Well, it's
you
not
know-
splitting the property though.
pardon?
It's not splitting the property.
I own that property on both sides.
Okay, so it's not, but you own on both sides, you don't own the right of way.
I know that.
Okay, well, but you're saying it's splitting your property, but it's always been split.
Yeah, it's been a driveway there, yeah.
And I assume, I
Yeah.
don't know when Art bought them, but,
1943, right?
I don't recall. I'd have to look back at all my
That was in the.
paperwork.
Yeah. Any further discussion?
I think, the council would have to take some action, either accept or reject the petition, so.
According to the legal opinion, I don't know that we've got a choice. The action is to reject the petition. I'd make that motion.
Second.
The,
It's an administrative decision.
that this is an administrative decision, and that's the basis for the rejection of the petitions.
Second on that.
Motion and second on the table to reject the petition based on the fact that it's an administrative action rather than legislative, based on South Dakota codified law. Glasses 9-20-19. All right, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Motion carries. Petition rejected. All right, go ahead and move on. Next item for new business, appointment to 5-year term for Beresford Economic Development Corporation Board.
Doug Alding's term is up for a 5-year term at the end of this month, and he has said he would stay on. He has been a chamber representative since day one, since he's been on there, so he'd like to stay on if you guys would approve that.
What do they do?
What's that?
What's his position, like, what do they do?
He's just a member of the
Board
board.
minutes from today.
Okay. Okay.
Aren't they supposed to give the council report every once in a while, didn't we
Have a
ask,
great night. Thanks for your time.
didn't we ask for?
They haven't met much lately because we haven't had any reasons to.
The last time we met with Betco was, the day before their last meeting, I talked to Phil about the child care task force and their support, so they gave me their support. That's still basically taking shape, but that was the last time they met. I don't know that they've had any actions, but we just met the other day, and they have a few things that they need to take into consideration going forward from the economic development perspective. And now that we're leveraging the expertise that's been brought to the table by the Sioux Metro Growth Alliance, which is economic development flavored organization, I think they have more to talk about. So Doug would be, this would be his second 5-year term?
Correct.
Yeah. So, but I think, Will, to your point, the committees do have a responsibility, so much like what Mike did with Parks, Pools, Recreation, and Education. I think we can look down that list where we made those appointments in May, and we can ask those committees to, if there hasn't been any action, ping them and ask them, what's currently going on.
Yeah, I like to,
Can we get something by before the end of the year, like December?
If they meet, they're gonna meet in most likely
I mean, just a
November.
brief synopsis of what's going on.
yeah, I mean, I like to know what's going on, I mean, I've got no clue what they're looking into, I mean, you know, I don't know, I see I-29, that road has, since I've been around, has been, I remember when I lived in Sioux City, driving to Sioux Falls, I'd pass 10 cars. You know, now, I can barely get out on 46, let alone get on 29, you're like, holy jeez. We have a lot of traffic, and I think that's, that could end up with a lot of dollars if we have the right, businesses come in, we can generate a lot of revenue coming off that interstate. And I don't see anything getting done. I mean, I don't see it because I'm not aware of what they're doing, is I guess what I should say. I like to be more aware of what are their plans? What are we doing to benefit our community? I mean, that's a lot of tax dollars I see just driving by. You know, I like to rope these people in, whether it's, you know, a national restaurant chain come in or a strip mall, and something. I mean, you know, I don't know.
Can we put
But
them on
we're
the
gonna.
agenda? Can we get somebody on the agenda before the end of the year?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
I appreciate that, if you help out, but Will needs more education.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not pointing fingers here or anything like that, I just wanna
Just,
be
you know,
more
15
aware of
minutes.
what's going on, and,
I think one component of economic development that has been in motion, that while Betco hasn't perhaps had their fingers on probably as assertively as we have and we're planning and zoning, is the new development, the Bach Brothers property. That is a component of economic development. You know, adding shingles to the community. And I think taking some of these plans and pushing them forward, whether it's a vision that's enabled by Sioux Metro Growth Alliance or Mike Tiedemann and I did have the opportunity to talk with an engineering firm that does, when ISG or Steve Watson came in, if you'll remember, some of the things that they talked about were marrying vision with what economic development plans would look like. So I think there's things going on, I think we just need to probably bring them together so that we've got a better consolidated picture from a council perspective.
yeah, I think the council should probably be abreast anyway of what's going on.
Agreed.
So we need a motion?
Motion to approve Doug for another 5, yeah?
Yeah, okay. Shall I make a motion for appointment for a 5-year term for Beresford Economic Development Corporation Board to stay on a second term,
Another 5-year term.
another 5-year term?
Doug already. Doug already.
Yep.
Second.
Motion second on the table to appoint Mr. Doug Allerding to another 5-year term for Beresford Economic Development Corporation. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, motion carries. Next item, part-time librarian for Beresford Public Library.
We have we're trying to fill in a Deb Johnson, 17, 16 an hour. That's about all I got.
What was that?
We wanna hire Deb Johnson at 17, 16 an hour to be the part-time librarian at the library.
17, 16?
Yeah, she didn't have a whole lot of applications, so we're lucky to get one.
All right, Chet, make a motion for part-time librarian hire for Beresford Public Library at 17, 16, starting what date?
Whenever she, I don't know the date,
Whenever Elaine,
whenever she schedules her.
yeah, schedule. Thank
Second.
you.
Motion and a second on the table to authorize the hiring of Deb Johnson at 17, 16 an hour as a part-time librarian for the Beresford Public Library. Effective
As soon as she's
ASAP.
okay, yeah.
Did you have to start working, or?
She has not yet.
Okay. All right, any further discussion?
Did we hear what her qualification is?
So she used to homeschool her children.
If you're talking about qualifications, you probably should go into executive
Oh.
session.
Oh, I just, okay,
She's a local person.
okay.
She knows a lot of people.
James had the fact that she's qualified.
Yeah, can I make a comment on that, cause I'm on
She's
the
got a good last name.
library board, I did talk to Jane, she made a recommendation that she did the best she could to get, who she could get, why she could get anybody. So, she did a good job.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? All right, congratulations, Deb Johnson. Item 11 on the agenda, discussion information items, childcare roundtable, 6:30 PM, November 19th, Beresford Public Library, sponsored by South Dakota State University. But Mike doesn't want to go any games there. They are coming down. They are coming to talk about childcare, which is, I have everybody that's part of the childcare task force. I've pushed that out to them, so hopefully they'll be there to hear some ideas. And then we're going to try to get the survey out before they're actually on the ground, well, in the next week. So that we'll have some feedback on what our community demand is.
We'll put it on social media, and
Yep.
then we're gonna have another reminder come up when it gets closer to November 12th.
I've heard quite a few people in town that are interested, I think from multiple angles. So, good thing. Next item, State Bridge naming ceremony in honor of U.S. Army First Lieutenant Joseph L. Thorne, November 11th, 1:30 PM, Beresford High School at the Veterans Day presentation. The agenda was pushed out by the high school today, and it looks like it's going to be, Mr. Brian Field had a hand in putting this together. Does look like the governor's going to make remarks, I don't know if that's in video or if she is actually gonna be in attendance. So, looks like it's, I do know that, Mr. Savvy the other day from the VFW perspective was talking about the event, so, it should, because there are, going to be a couple different organizations that are coming to the table to celebrate this bridge naming. I can't remember, it's, South Dakota Department of Game Fish and Parks. All right, any other questions about that? Okay, special meeting date for budget.
Yeah, we looked at a few dates. October 30th is what we'd like to see if that worked for most of you guys, or for all of you. That's gonna be a Wednesday.
That will not work for me.
Okay.
I wouldn't be able to, I'll be in Montana, so I won't even be able to zoom in.
You're skiing up there by Livingston?
No, I'm going somewhere where the phones don't work.
Bozeman? I used to live in Livingston.
It's
No.
not a great date for me either, but
6th November?
We need to get probably ahead of, our first reading of the ordinance will be the first meeting in November.
Okay.
So that'll be on November 4th, so we'd like to review it before we do the first reading of the ordinance.
Does it make next Monday work?
That would be Monday the,
28th? Does that work for everybody?
Monday the 28th, is what you said.
I'm gone that whole week.
oh, yeah.
Oh, for crying out loud.
It's better for me,
Pat, and
Fridays are Fridays.
unless Pat gets moved to.
Oh, I can make any meeting.
Yeah,
If it's for the city, I'm here.
I don't think it'll be that quick.
I don't think it will be either.
Does it have to be, can we like do it 5:30, like early?
That's what we prefer to do.
Okay. Can we do that, 5:30 on the 28th?
Counselor Rohr, good by you? Okay, so we'll back with you when you get back.
Still get to vote on it, because it'll be the second reading that counts.
So, all right, so special meeting date for initial budget review, October 28th at 5:30. Good. All right, that concludes the discussion information items. Item number 12, approval of travel request 2024 Annual Safety and Loss Conference, Pier, Anson Zimon's.
Shall I make a motion for 2024 Annual Safety Loss Control Conference Pier, November 21st, Anson and Zimon's.
Second.
Motion is second on the table to approve the travel request. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries, travel request approved.
Make a motion that we pay the bills.
Oh, man.
Geez, don't sound so excited about it.
Motion is second on the table to pay the bills. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?